Hi everybody, this is Candy and I am getting a card here put together for using the Circus stamp set, and I'm going to pull some fun things. I've got the Circus Life paper pad and the Under the Big Top stamp and die and the curtain call embossing powder. So I'm going to do some stamping and die cutting and we'll see what we get with. So first I chose my paper and I decided I want this yellow and red Harlequin. I think this will be fun for my background. I've got an A2 card base here that we're going to use with that. And then I chose the Circus tent, and I have the balloons in here, which I think will be fun. And I'm not sure what else we're gonna do. I'm thinking maybe life is a circus or have a great day, celebrate. We'll see what the sentiment. Let's just play. So first thing we got to do is I have some Perfect Blend paper in my Misty here, and I'm gonna go ahead and use the Raven ink to ink up my balloons. And these are new stamps, so I may have to stamp them more than once. But I love the Perfect Blend for ink blending, and it's so great for alcohol markers and all that stuff. So I'm going to stamp them down one more time. I don't care if it's super dark. I'm just trying to make sure I get a nice crisp image. It doesn't have to be super dark because everything else is kind of there. And then for the tent, I'm going to go ahead and use my anti-static powder tool, and I'm going to use this curtain call embossing powder. You could use a red ink and heat emboss over it, but I'm going to go ahead and use this. I have my embossing powder ink here, and I'm going to go ahead and this is a very detailed stamp, so I'm going to be very careful to not push too hard because there's some writing on it. I'm just going to kind of tap my fingers over it, and I'm going to make sure that's back in the corner. I'm going to do it one more time, and we're going to see. I see I have a small bubble under my stamp, so we may have to redo this. So let us see what happens. Sometimes I'm going to show that to you. The embossing ink will last. It's going to be hard to see, but it will stay wet for a little bit. And I'm going to pull this up. Sometimes you get a little bubble under your stamps. What you have to do on bigger stamps is pull it up and then let it fall down. And then you'll get rid of that bubble, especially if you have a bigger stamp or a thicker stamp. Sometimes that's what happens and you get spots on you can't quite get completely covered. So let me grab a piece of scratch paper here. This is a very well loved one. This embossing powder is a red and gold colored. I believe it is available, but I know it's a limited edition, so I would run and grab it if you want it, but any embossing powder would work. I just thought I would use some of this beautiful red. So yes, I did have a bubble. You can see right there. So when I go to heat set this, it's not going to heat set properly because I had a bubble under my stamp. I'm going to go ahead and heat set it anyway, just because I already have the ink on it, with the embossing powder on it. And then I'm going to try, because the beauty of the Misty is I'm going to try to stamp it again. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just restamp it. I will go off camera, restamp it, and come back. But the beauty of the Misty is that it's still back in here. So I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool again. I had used the corner, so we're going to try this again. I'm going to try to just put some ink in just the center section here where I had the bubble. And we're just going to see what happens. It may or may not work. And I'm going to go ahead and do that 2 times just to make sure, and push down kind of where those little bubble thingies were. And then we'll check and see how that is. See if I did it or if it, nope, it did not. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go off camera and redo this, and I will come right back and stamp it one more time. Okay. I got it. I repositioned it, re-stamped it, and got it all done in heat embossed. Look at how pretty that is. So what I think I'm going to do to kind of tie in with this yellow is I'm going to grab a yellow ink. That I have here. Let's see. I'm going to grab the Slippery When Wet. That looks like the right yellow. And I just got a blending brush here, and we're going to grab this, and I'm going to go ahead and just ink blend over this whole image because I'm going to reiterate these colors very much. The yellow and the red. And the embossing powder will resist the color, and it will color in the rest of my tent. And this is from Simon Hurley. This was Slippery When Wet. And then I will take a cloth, and I'm just gonna buff it off a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut this out with the coordinating dies. So I don't know if I've cut my dies apart yet. I just got my stamp set the other day in the mail. So I'm gonna go ahead and use our wire snips, the Brutus Monroe wire snips. And I just take them. When I cut them here, I try to kind of twist a little bit. What I tend to do is if I don't cut them all apart, I cut apart the ones I need first. And then when I have some time or time when I don't know really what to do for my crafting, I cut the rest apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and just snip these off here. And let's see. There we go. And I'm gonna, you be very careful because these are very sharp, but I'm just gonna stick those on my dies. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab my balloons here. And because I don't need the others, I'm not gonna bother snipping them off, but I thought I'd show you how easily they come apart with the Brutus Monroe snips. And then we need the balloon here. All right, now there's that little tiny piece. I'm just gonna take my die and instead I'm twisting and then I will throw it away. So I'm gonna quickly grab, we're gonna throw a little punch of color in here, and I'm gonna color these with just some quick alcohol markers. These are very small, so I'm not gonna do a lot of shading or anything. I'm just gonna use the light color and then grab the dark and just kind of put it in this corner. We're gonna do that with 2 of the balloons, the dark in this corner. We'll do the blue. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab I don't have the best red, and I think we're gonna do an orange. I'm gonna do an orange, and I'm gonna do the stripes, and I don't want the dark. I want to do the light. So we're gonna do the light orange here, just to add a little bit of extra fun. And then this one's pink, isn't it? It is pink. So I'm gonna grab, this is the one I want. It's kind of a pinky red, but it's a little more red, and we're gonna go ahead and add the red stripes. Very quick coloring, and then whatever yellow I just happen to have. This is a very bright yellow, but I feel like balloons tend to be a very bright color. So we're just gonna color that in there. And then we will get this die cut out. So I just line up the coordinating dies. And the Brutus Monroe dies cut beautifully. So I'm going to line these up and cut them out, and I will be right back. I've got my die cuts out. I'm going to use the happy birthday sentiment. So let us stamp that out, and we'll get the stamps then put away if I'm not sure where I put them. Let's grab that. And I'm gonna go ahead and stamp this in black ink, because that will tie our black, and we're gonna tie with the white because we want to keep tying those same colors together that we've already used. We've got the white around our balloons and the black for the balloons. Pop those on. Got a little piece right here of the perfect blend that will work. Put it right in my corner. see if this is long enough here. It's perfect. So we're gonna just stick that in there. We're gonna die cut it out, so it doesn't matter if it's perfect. Run my finger along it just a little bit, just to make sure that, since it's a new stamp, and with sentiments, I just run my finger over it a few times. I try not to be too pushy. Now the A in this is very tight, so I didn't squish it down. You can see that it is a very close font, so it stamped out perfectly. So we will die cut that out, and then we will start getting ready to assemble our card. So I'm gonna throw the die on there quick. And I had some pixie tape here. And I'm gonna do some kind of wild stamping. So let's quick run this through our die cutting machine. And then I think I'm gonna add just a little bit of extra sparkle with some splash or chroma mist and some more embossing powder. Get everything out of the way. So this is our card base, or our panel. We're gonna cut this down. I'm gonna cut this down to 4 by 5 1/4. So it's gonna show some of that white edge, which is what I want. I want to incorporate more of that white into my card base, and my card base isn't quite folded perfectly. So we're gonna just trim that edge off there so it's squared up a little bit better. There we go. And then I'm gonna go free-handed here, and I'm gonna grab an acrylic block. I'm not gonna worry too much about my anti-static powder tool, but I'm gonna grab these stars. And I'm gonna grab the embossing ink here, and we're just gonna randomly stamp these stars on the background. And I'm twisting the paper so the stars go different directions. I can see the wet ink, so I know they're not overlapping. And then before I do any more, because I do want to add a little bit more, we're gonna quick heat emboss this. So I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna use that same curtain call embossing powder. And this is just gonna add a little bit of interest. And you can see that because I didn't use my anti-static powder tool, there's a bunch stuck on there. And I'm okay with that. See, I clicked it and a lot of that extra glitter fell off of there. But now I can see where my images are, and I can grab my ink pad here. I'm showing you how to be very careful keeping embossed, and I can stamp a couple more of these down. And I'm trying to go off the page just a little bit so the pattern continues. And then I think we'll do one more down here and one over here, and I think that we'll call that good. Go ahead, throw the rest of my embossing ink powder on where my ink is, my wet ink is. Just make sure it's all covered. I'm gonna tap it off. And I will say, when I go to heat emboss this, you will see, because there's the sparkle in both of these, sometimes you will see that a little bit might fly off, and that stuff that's flying off is that's the powder that's not stuck to any kind of sticky ink like this embossing powder. So I am gonna heat this on camera quick. You can see what it looks like. It doesn't take long. You just want to make sure your heat gun is nice and hot. And it's just going to add that little bit of extra something to our background. So now what I can see when I put this down on my card, my circus is gonna get a little lost. So we're gonna add just a little bit of something here. And I think what I'm gonna do is I have some vellum, I believe, right here, that I'm just gonna do a quick, trim on. We're just gonna trim off a little banner just to kind of show, and I'm gonna do it by measuring what my, that looks good. So it's about 2 1/4. Just enough so that it kind of ties up and you don't see, you can see that, you'll see my, it'll break up the background just enough to put my little circus on. So let us get this going. I'm gonna go ahead and attach this. And I like to use, especially when I heat emboss on card panels, I do like to use a heat tool or a tape runner, because sometimes when you do embossing on pattern paper, it can get a little bit warped. And then I go ahead and just add a little bit of glue as well. We're gonna go ahead and add this to our center of our card panel. And then I'm gonna go ahead, and you can see where I reset this. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna add liquid glue all over the back of our circus. So I kept that in so you could see that, it's just paper. Flip it over, use the other side. And we're gonna attach that. So we're just gonna kind of eyeball this. And I'm gonna do it right in the center of this piece of vellum. And then what we can do is we can flip over and we will see where this is, and we can add all sorts of glue there. And then I like to do is I just put a couple of dots in the corner, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this on my desk, and I'm just gonna wipe it. And I'm gonna just wipe the edges with my finger, just a little bit. I don't care so much if the top and bottom edges get that glue, but I just wipe it. And then when we go to glue it down, and I think we're gonna center this actually. Nope, we're gonna put it down just a little bit lower. I'm gonna go ahead and put a acrylic block on top, and then I also can tell you another trick I have learned is to use your MISTI to hold it in place. And then we've got our balloons here and our sentiments, and we gotta add just a little bit of fun splatter. So I'm gonna just use this piece of paper to kind of keep my stuff behind kind of clean, move my stuff off to the side here. We're gonna add just a little bit of splatter. And I'm not sure if I have all the splatter that I want here in candy. So what I'm gonna do is we're gonna use the Ornamental Gold, and you can see that beautiful shimmer. I'm gonna shake that up a little bit, just because I wanna make sure I get all that beautiful mica shimmer powders in. I'm gonna pull this off, and we're just gonna add a little bit of a spritz. I'm gonna spritz it in my garbage can first. And I'm just gonna, that, and then I'm gonna grab a little bit of the Raven Aqua Splash. Make sure that's nice, and I'm just gonna kind of add some splatters here and there. I'm not usually very particular about how my splatters go. There, we got a big splatter spot. We're gonna let that sit for a minute. Let's move our stuff off to the side. And we're gonna clean off our desk with some squeaky clean. I'll show you the shimmer that comes. Where is my towel? I'll use my new stencil towel. That'll work. I'm gonna show this sparkle to you. You can kind of see the sparkle. It's very hard to see on camera, but it's very shimmery. And then we're just gonna go ahead and grab our balloons. because my idea is that these balloons are floating off from the circus, floating up above. We will grab our other little blue balloon here. I'm going to put him over here. We'll grab our happy birthday sentiments. And put that down below. I'm going to put it right on the edge of that. And once again, I'm going to put my Misty and my stamping block right on that and let that dry for just a minute, and then we will be ready to go. Okay, there we go. And now we have this beautiful big top circus card with lots of shimmer. Well, thank you for joining me, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, and please don't forget to create your own ending. Bye now.